We're going to call this meeting of Erie County Council to order on Tuesday, September 14th, 2021 at 6:25 p.m. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance in our back right corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight we have our optional prayer from County Council Member Scott Rastetter. Councilman Rastetter, please.
Okay. Should I stand? Oh, Dale, can you hear me? Okay. Okay. I love old sayings and stuff, and I was gonna do something. I was gonna put something together for that, and I didn't. And then I thought, well, I'll look up the Ten Commandments. It's full of good old sayings. Although I found it very interesting how much information there is about the Ten Commandments on the internet. And I got a thing this thick of arguments about the Ten Commandments in different versions. And that's just a little sample of them there. It's very small print, but anyhow, I thought, well, I'll just read the Ten Commandments, and maybe we'll say a prayer after that. I hope that's all right. Freda's not here, so I think we're okay as far as insulting anybody's religion. I'm not an overly religious guy. I am religious, but I'm not one to tell people what to think. So anyhow, number one is, I am the Lord your God, which have brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. That's pretty interesting. It's kind of old, but I guess we can all be grateful for that time. And then number two, you shall not make unto you any graven image. And it goes on to point out a few different things about images on the land, under the land, in the water, yada yada. Not to make fun of the Ten Commandments, but it's a little bit on the old side. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Now, when I was a kid, they told us, well, that means cussing. Don't cuss with the Lord's name. But I don't know. I think to me now, as an adult, that means more taking the Lord's name as if you are equal to the Lord, a vanity thing. Like you are above everybody else. But you're not, so don't do that. Remember the Sabbath day, and this is one that we don't do much anymore, but it's too bad. I'd be all for bringing back the blue laws and making the Sabbath day a nice quiet day. Number 5, honor your mother and your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God giveth you. And that's a good one. I mean, kids today need to have more civic lessons and learn how to be good citizens, good adults, respect your elders kind of thing. You shall not kill. That's number 6, and that's a very important one that we should really take to heart. Along with number 7, you shall not commit adultery. Number 8, you shall not steal, which is kind of an obvious thing. You should not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Then finally, number 10, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is your neighbor's. And it's kind of interesting how they put that manservant and maidservant in there. I guess it was okay to have servants back then, or quite normal, I don't know. But anyhow, I just thought we'd say the Lord's Prayer. Everybody knows it. And Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Rastetter. I think that was the fullest and most detailed prayer that we've had. So we thank you for that. Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Clear,
Here.
Mr. Horton,
Here.
Mr. Rastetter,
Here.
Mrs. Rennie,
Here.
Mrs. Showerman,
Here.
Mr. Shank,
Here.
Chairman Anderson.
Here. Next, we would certainly like to thank everybody for being here tonight, and we are honored to be in Waterford, Pennsylvania this evening. And this will be our final council meeting for this year on the road. Hard to believe that summer has gone by this quickly, but it's a beautiful night in Waterford. And Councilman Rastetter, we certainly thank our staff, but thank you as we're in your district tonight for making the arrangements and bringing us out here to Waterford. And I'd like to turn it over to you to give a welcome on council's behalf.
Well, yeah, welcome to the 6th District, everybody. I'm kind of surprised we don't have more visitors here, but kind of relieved too. The first 2 times I was here, I almost got run out on a rail. It was a little bit frightening. Both times I had to be escorted out by the chief because the boys got a little excited. The first time over the radio system, and then the second time was about the community college. But anyhow, welcome to Waterford, welcome to the 6th District, and I want to thank the sheriff's deputies there for coming and keeping an eye on things. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Rastetter, how you could incite a riot, I'm not really sure I know.
Well, I was surprised myself.
but it's a story we'll talk about over a beer sometime.
Yeah. Yeah.
At any rate, thank you for that, and thank you for having us and the work that you do, not only for all of the citizens of Erie County, but in particular the residents of your district. As one of your council colleagues, I can say I know how hard you work and how dedicated you are to this community, and we certainly appreciate that. So thank you. Next, we'll have a hearing from the public. As we always state, if somebody has called in time to be on the agenda, they receive 5 minutes. If not, we certainly will give everybody an opportunity to speak, and they would have 3 minutes. Lou Aliota had called in to receive his 5 minutes. He did reach out to me this afternoon by email to express that he could not make it this evening. He was going to try and send his comments to be put into the record and given to the members of council. He was not able to do that by the meeting time, but he did say that he would get them to council. So if we have them in time to read them into the minutes, we will certainly do that, or we will make sure that they're read into the next council meetings minutes, and at that time, maybe he will also have an opportunity to be here. So he is not here this evening, so next, and he is the only one that called in. So next would be any citizen that wishes to be heard. Mr. Leopold, please give us your name and municipality, and then you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Art Leopold, and I live in Mill Creek. And I want to thank honored chairpersons, councilpersons, gentle ladies and gentlemen for having us in this evening and for being here. As always, I try to bring some information for council. Did I die? Is this still going?
It's good. It's good.
All right. And I asked the county clerk to pass out some information for everyone. I have spoken before regarding the IRG proposed plant in Erie. And so this evening, I always have questions. And so what I've done is I brought you more questions this evening. Our Water, Our Air, Our Rights has provided some questions. The Green New Deal and their affiliate organizations have questions. And the Sierra Club has their statement that they've provided for your consideration. Some of these things have been in the public before, but I bring them forth just so you can have them for your own consideration in your own study. The fact that there are so many questions that have arisen can be concerning, or it can be that we just haven't had answers. And so I'm hoping that we have answers. I very briefly want to thank Councilman Horton. He attempted to get a meeting together with the owners and an environmental group, and the environmental group declined and put off till a later date, but I want to thank him for his efforts. He's always willing to help out where he can, and I appreciate him making the effort. Secondly, there's a climate strike that the Benedictine sisters, environmental groups, youth, other organizers have put together. It's on the 24th. And if you could use that for your own information and spread the word, we'd certainly appreciate it. And finally, just perusing the agenda, I wanted to say the essence of what I read, because there were some ads and some future amendments and some variations going to be made in old business. This ordinance number 72, 73, and 74, the essence of those I certainly support, and give them your utmost consideration. And it'd be wonderful if we had a unanimous vote on those, but obviously have your own mind. I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Leopold. Thank you. Please give us your name and municipality, and I'll begin your time then.
My name is Mark Miller. I'm in Mill Creek. If you want my title, it's Reverend Mark Miller. I was telling my wife that if we ever get to a point where I'm coming to speak at one of these meetings, we're in some perilous times, and truthfully, I believe we are. So here I am. I have two brief things to say to you. I thank you for your time. First, know that we pray for you regularly. Every Sunday at church, we pray for you. Much has been given to you, and much will be required. Second, and what has caused me to come here this evening, has to do with the ruling of an unelected health official in our county saying, and I quote, "We have been unable to identify any coherent religious doctrine or faith-based system of beliefs that requires its adherents to refrain from covering their mouths and noses." So the religious exemption at that time was rescinded by her. Now, I'm aware that Governor Wolf has come out long after that and made his own mandate. They seem to be flying around right now. But I fear precedent is being set right here in our county by unelected officials of all people whom are trampling of religious freedoms. As a Presbyterian and Reformed minister, a concept that has long been held by our theology and codified in our standards, the very constitution of our church, has the title liberty of conscience. The Apostle Paul taught that whatever is not from faith is sin in the book of Romans. This means that if a Christian cannot perform an action with faithful confidence that God would allow it, to so act is sin and defiles one's conscience. This liberty of conscience presupposes that Christians may differ a lot in their understanding of how to apply God's moral law, and that each one, as an individual, is bound to act in accordance with how they understand it. So, if someone in our church is convinced that covering their face or getting the COVID shot is sin for them, well, it is, right? It is. Therefore, I urge you as civil authorities to be real careful as to mandates that are made without religious exemptions. Mandates that may in fact violate one's liberty of conscience and cause one to sin. And if that is the case, then it is our duty as Christians to reject it. For we cannot sin against our God. There are higher mandates than man mandates, right? We read them just now. And as a mandate, as they keep flying around these days, I would argue it is your duty and mine to protect this biblical understanding that was been held right from our founding, as James Madison asserted to Congress while speaking on the Bill of Rights, that rights of conscience is something for which the people of America are most alarmed. I have a church full of people who are most alarmed. You should be alarmed at that. Americans, alarmed. I'm here to tell you that there is one religious group in your constituents that holds liberty of conscience as a fundamental doctrine. Fundamental.
Reverend Miller, your 3 minutes has expired.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Are there any other citizens that wish to be heard? Any other citizens that wish to be heard? And finally, are there any other citizens that wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll continue on with our agenda. Next on our agenda is the potential approval of our minutes from the August 17th meeting. I would ask for a motion.
So move. Second it.
We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilman Horton. Are there any comments or questions from members of council on the minutes? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote, please?
On the minutes of August 17th, Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. Thank you. Next on our agenda are reports from county officials. Mr. Sparber, does the county executive or her designee have a report this evening? Thank you, Mr. Sparber. Next is the Finance Committee. Finance Chairwoman Clear, could you give us your report tonight, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The finance meeting occurred on September 14th, 2021. And the, I totally lied. I did not mean to. I apologize. The Finance Committee met on Thursday, September 9th, 2021, and we are submitting the following to the agenda. Old business, letters A through F, and new business, A through H. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Finance Chairwoman Clear. And next is a report from the Personnel Committee. Finance Chairwoman Rennie, if you could give us your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Personnel Committee met Thursday, September 9th as well. There are no items for tonight's agenda from Personnel. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairwoman Rennie. Tonight, there were no other committee reports from members of council, so we'll continue forward with old business, which is a second reading of ordinance number 69. Mr. Smith, if we could have that in title only, please.
A second reading of ordinance number 69, 2021, 27th, 2021 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $7,000 for additional insurance expense in Director of Administration office.
So moved?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilwoman Showerman. Are there any comments or questions from members of council? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote, please?
On ordinance 69, Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. Thank you. Our next item is the second reading of ordinance number 70. Mr. Smith, if we could have that in title only, please.
A second reading of ordinance number 70, 2021, approving a single vendor contract for a 3-year agreement with Advent Communications for partner assurance support services.
So moved?
Second?
We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilwoman Rennie. Are there any comments or questions from members of council? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote, please?
On ordinance number 70, Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Smith. May we have a second reading of ordinance number 71 in title only, please?
A second reading of ordinance number 71, 2021 Pleasant Ridge Manor Fund Budget, revised revenue of $2,700,000 from ARPA revenue replacement.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Councilwoman Showerman, second by Vice Chairwoman Clear. Are there any comments or questions from members of council? Seeing no questions or comments, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote, please?
On ordinance 71, Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton.
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. Thank you. Next on our agenda is ordinance number 72, second reading. Mr. Smith, may we have that in title only, please? Actually, Mr. Smith, on this particular item, could you read the entire face sheet, please?
A second reading of ordinance number 72, 2021, to create and establish the Erie County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. Whereas on August 5, 2021, pursuant to ordinance 65, 2021, County Council established the Erie County American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 ARPA Fund, which was appropriated in part the sum of $3.5 million to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission to be restricted pending and until its creation and establishment. Whereas on August of 2021, pursuant to Ordinance 72, Erie County Council created and established the Erie County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. Now therefore be enacted by the County Council of the County of Erie pursuant to Article 2, Section 3B2, Sections 1C3, 2C3, and Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter, does hereby establish the Erie County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission for purposes and intents and in accordance with the structure as outlined on Exhibit A, attached hereto and incorporated herein. This ordinance shall be effective immediately upon adoption.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilwoman Showerman. Are there any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairwoman Clear?
I would like to amend this particular ordinance. I am going to make a motion to amend the face sheet to reflect the changed language that has been proposed by Solicitor Tallarico and read by Mr. Smith, and then also make a motion to add Exhibit A to the ordinance. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Would you mind a friendly amendment to say, as read by County Clerk Smith?
As read by County Clerk
Yeah.
Doug Smith.
Okay. Thank you. So we have a motion for an amendment, and the amendment included the addition of the
Exhibit.
adding the exhibit. Thank you. We have a motion that was made by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded already by Councilwoman Showerman. Are there any comments or questions about the amendment? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote on the amendment?
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Smith, may we have a second reading then, and a vote as amended? Just a second reading of the title, and then voted as amended.
Mr. Chairman, might I suggest the first version that I read of this ordinance was in fact the original. So I could read this proposed language if that's all right with you. And that way your vote will be reflective of this changed language.
Yes, if you would read it then in its entirety to reflect the amended language.
Ordinance 72, 2021, to create and establish the Erie County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, whereas on September 8, pursuant to Resolution 43, 2020, Erie County Council declared racism as a public health crisis in Erie County. In doing so, the County Council found that persistent negative effects of discrimination in America, if left unchecked, would continue to exacerbate the morally reprehensible deprivation of people of color. And whereas on March 11, 2021, President Biden signed into law the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, an act generally designed to facilitate the country's recovery from the devastating economic and health effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. More specifically, the act directed the allocation of funding to populations disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. Whereas on August 5, 2021, pursuant to Ordinance 65, 2021, County Council unanimously adopted the Erie County American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA Fund, and appropriated the sum of $3,500,000 to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, subject to its creation and the formation of its membership. And whereas the purpose of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission is to address those households, businesses, populations who have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 pandemic, to invest and stimulate investment in historically disadvantaged populations and neighborhoods, to economically empower minority populations and businesses, to provide support and to contribute to the growth and improvement of Erie County's historically disadvantaged populations and neighborhoods. Now therefore be it enacted by the County Council of the County of Erie, pursuant to Article 2, Section 3B2, Sections 1C3, 2C3, and Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter, that County Council does hereby create and establish the Erie County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission for purposes and intents and in accordance with the rules and structure as outlined on the attached Exhibit A, hereto and incorporated herein. Further, in accordance with the Home Rule Charter and the Administrative Code, the DEI Commission shall consist of 9 members, 2 of whom shall be appointed by the County Executive, and 7 of whom shall be appointed by County Council. Each member of County Council shall have 1 appointment, which appointment does not have to reside in the district to which the member of county council was elected, this ordinance shall be effective immediately upon adoption.
I would like to make a motion to vote on this as amended and read by county clerk.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear and seconded by Councilman Horton. As amended, this is as amended, as read. Thank you for that. Are there any comments or questions from members of council?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairwoman Clear,
may I say a few words about this ordinance?
please do.
When Chairman Anderson came to me and asked me about, and I realize we don't have many people here, but this is for the record, when you came and talked about having a COVID impact committee back in December as one of the things you wanted to do as chairman, I knew that we were going to be up for some challenges, you know, trying to investigate what exactly happened in Erie County, what was the impact on all people in Erie County. And I think that during our meetings, and after looking back on all of our meetings, I can say with earnest, in earnest, that the unfortunate, what unfortunately happened to our African American community here in Erie County and our minority populations was extravagant. And the idea to be able to help empower, economically empower a group of people to help not just recover from COVID-19, but to promote themselves and their situation to change what has happened to them over the course of history, I think is one of my most proud moments, to be able to vote for something that will include this inclusive kind of policy making and gather up people from all over Erie County as we each get appointments to come together and to find projects and fund ideas that will promote a group of people that have been left behind for way too long. I hope for this for my students, I hope for this for my children, that they get to watch this happen, and not just over the next 4 years, but the next 40, next 400 years, we get to see a group of people no longer being disenfranchised. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for all the work you've done on this commission. I just want to say that, and I'm very, very proud to vote for something like this. And I do hope that it does change the future for so many who have been left behind. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairwoman Clear. Are there any other comments from members or questions from members of council? I'm going to make some final comments before we vote on this, and because I don't believe that this moment should go without notice, and it shouldn't go without my expressed gratitude to my colleagues on county council for the vision and collaboration and cooperation that all of us show. We have constituencies to represent in our specific districts, and we have all of the residents of Erie County to represent as a collective body. And we have our own ideas and our own agendas for important items to bring forward on this council. But it never ceases to amaze me that when something of extreme importance or historic significance to change the trajectory of this community comes forward, this council and my colleagues step up to the task. And this staff that we have with our county clerk and Jill and Nicole, as well as the work from our financial advisor, Amy, and certainly the the advice and counsel of our solicitor, Tom Tallarico, is invaluable to us, and it's invaluable to this community. And I have to say, in this particular instance, as with the ARPA funding, we couldn't move something like this forward without the cooperation of the administration, the county executive, the hard work of the finance department, in particular, Ms. Knight, you, and Mr. Sparber, you as well, and as well Tracy before she retired. We don't change the trajectory of the community by standing still. And this county government, this council, has moved forward, and I think moved forward in a very positive manner. The spirit and the intent of this very unfortunate circumstance that we have with this COVID pandemic and the funds that we've received from it. We've done this, I believe, in a very fiscally responsible and accountable way to the citizens of Erie County. It's fair and reasonable what we've done with initial funding. It is fair and reasonable with the way in which we set about the formation of the board by seeking out all of those ethnic groups of people of color that represent all of Erie County. And it's fair in the way in which countywide this represents just about 15% of our population and a common sense approach, 15% set aside for this initial funding. It is my goal, and I believe that the goal of all of my colleagues, that as this commission gets underway, they will have an opportunity to create their own destiny by the creation of their bylaws and the policies that they put in place and the direction that they take. The monies that they receive from ARPA funds will have to be spent. They will have to be very diligent and very selective in how they spend those funds, but more importantly, I think, they will have to be out there working in conjunction with the rest of the community to make sure that they leverage these funds to receive other grants, state and federal grants and local grants and philanthropic grants, to keep this commission going and make it grow and make it a benefit to this community and a benefit to the communities that they're seeking to invest the money in and empower. I really feel very strongly that we are doing something very historic tonight, very proactive, and very much in unity, because all politics is local, and what's most important is that we work together in unity on behalf of what is best for our community. So with that said, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote, please?
On amended ordinance number 72, 2021, Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. And just one further comment before we move forward. Although it does not surprise me, I am so proud that we've moved this initiative forward in a unanimous vote, showing the unity and collaboration as we move forward and keep this community moving forward. Thank you and congratulations to this board, to the county executive and her administration, and to the people of Erie County. Mr. Smith, with that said, may we have a second reading of ordinance number 73? And I believe if it's okay with you, we can do that in title only and then just amend to add the new exhibit.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 73, 2021, amending the Administrative Code of 2021, Article 2, Section 5, 4, 3, capital E, and incorporating the Erie County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilman Horton. Are there any comments or questions from members of council?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairwoman Clear?
I would like to amend this ordinance to include Exhibit A.
Thank you. We have a motion to amend to include Exhibit A.
Second.
The motion was made by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilman Horton. Are there any comments or questions from members of council on the amendment? Mr. Smith, may you do a roll call vote, please, on the amendment?
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter?
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie?
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman?
Yes.
Mr. Shank?
Yes.
Chairman Anderson?
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Smith, can we vote as amended, or should we make a motion as amended?
It can be a vote as amended, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Then I would ask for a roll call vote on ordinance number 73 as amended.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter?
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie?
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman?
Yes.
Mr. Shank?
Yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
Chairman Anderson?
Yes. Thank you. Next, we have a item that is on the table. If we choose to remove that from the table, we would have to remove it before we could have a first reading.
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairwoman Claire?
I would like to move to remove ordinance 74 from the table.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilwoman Showerman. Are there any comments or questions from members of council for the removal of this item from the table? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote to remove from the table?
Mr. Rastetter?
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie?
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman?
Yes.
Mr. Shank?
Yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Chairman Anderson?
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Smith, may we then have a first reading of ordinance number 74 in title only, please?
A first reading of ordinance number 74, 2021, American Rescue Plan Act Fund, revised expenditures of $3.5 million to the Erie County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We will now move to the new business for our agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairwoman Clear?
I would like to move to amend the new business agenda. I would like to move item ordinance number 76, number 77, number 78, and 79 to a second reading. I would also like to table items L and O, and I would move to put to one vote letters J, K, M, and N. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for clarity for a potentially a friendly amendment. Mr. Smith, should we vote on the tabling separately?
Yes, that's what I would recommend, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Madam Vice Chair, could I
I can
ask-
reword that.
Yep, if you would, please.
Oh, okay. Yes, I will, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda so that we have, I would move that ordinances number 76, 77, 78, and 79 be a second reading. And then I would like to combine, items J, K, M, and N to one vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If there's no comments or questions from members of council, then Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote?
On the motion by Mrs. Clear, Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Smith, may we have a second reading of ordinance number 76 in title only, please?
A second reading of ordinance number 76, 2021, 10th, 2021 Public Health Fund Budget, supplemental appropriation of $522,500 for Blue Zones donations.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Councilman Horton, seconded by Vice Chairwoman Clear. Are there any comments or questions from members of council? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote on ordinance 76?
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Smith. May we now have a second reading of ordinance number 77?
A second reading of ordinance number 77, 2021, removal of restrictions on $280,000 in 2021 American Rescue Plan funds for Erie County Futures Bureau, revised expenditures of and creation of line items.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Showerman, seconded by Councilwoman Rennie. Are there any comments or questions from members of council? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote on ordinance 77?
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. May we now have a second reading of ordinance number 78 in title only?
Second reading of ordinance number 78, 2021, 2021 Children and Youth Services Fund Budget, revised expenditures of $21,000 for creation of expense line items for court-ordered placements.
So moved?
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilman Horton. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote of ordinance number 78?
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. May we have a second reading then of ordinance number 79 in title only?
A second reading of ordinance number 79, 2021, 9th, 2021 Public Health Fund Budget, supplemental appropriation of $553,843 for grant funds in the Immunization Bureau.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Councilwoman Showerman, seconded by Vice Chairwoman Clear. Are there any comments or questions from members of council on this particular item? Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote on ordinance number 79, please?
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. Mr. Smith, if we could have a reading in title only of resolution number 33, please.
Resolution number 33, 2021, authorization to apply for Keystone Planning Grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Education.
So moved?
Thank you. We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilwoman Rennie. Are there any comments or questions from members of council? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote, please?
On resolution number 33, Mr. Rastetter, Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson,
I vote with Councilman Rastetter. That's yes. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, may we now have a reading and title only of resolution number 34, please?
Resolution number 34, 2021, resolution authorizing the undisturbed use of Blasco Memorial Library as a public library.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilman Rastetter. Are there any comments or questions from members of council on this particular item? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote on resolution number 34, please? Yes, number 34.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson,
Yes. Next on our agenda is a resolution number 35. Mr. Smith, if we could have a reading of that in title only, please.
resolution number 35, 2021, authorizing County Executive Dahlkemper to utilize e-signature for Blasco Library Project Keystone Grant application.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilman Horton. Are there any comments or questions from members of council? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote, please?
On resolution 35, Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson,
Yes. Next on our agenda is resolution number 36. Mr. Smith, if we could have resolution 36 in title only, please.
resolution number 36, 2021, appointment of presiding officer to adjudicate an appeal filed under the local agency law.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Showerman, seconded by Vice Chairwoman Clear. Are there any comments or questions?
I would like to make a motion to add Judge Shad Connolly at $200 an hour to the resolution. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion to amend resolution number 36 by Vice Chairwoman Clear to include the name of Shad Conley as the authorized officer and at a rate of $200 per hour, seconded by Councilwoman Showerman. Are there any comments or questions from members of council? Councilman Horton?
Yeah, just to include his status as retired Judge Shad Conley, not just Judge Shad Conley. But I think that his status should be part of the record.
Would
Chairman,
Yep.
the honor, could we refer to him as the Honorable Shad Conley? And, I mean, if you don't mind, that's what we're supposed to call these judges.
Do you want me to-
Councilman Horton, is that
Yes.
is that okay with you? And then Councilwoman Clear, is that friendly amendment then okay to add the word honorable?
And I can
That's his
reread
name.
that if you
Yeah.
would like.
No, You don't-
Okay.
Just as a friendly amendment, you can.
Okay,
Yeah, that's perfectly okay, and it's meet and right. I just want to make sure that he's afforded the proper title as he that befits him.
Yes, thank you. And Mr. Smith, if the friendly amendment was accepted, do we need to restate that, or are you okay with the amendment?
It seems pretty clear for the record, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Then could we have a roll call vote on the, can we vote on Resolution 34 as or 37 as amended, or should we amend it? 36. I'm sorry, 36.
There needs to be a vote on the amendment, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you. So we'll vote to make the amendment, and then we'll vote on it as amended. May we have a roll call vote, please?
On the amendment, Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Smith. May we have a roll call vote on Resolution 36 as amended?
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Horton?
Yeah, it's probably a little anticlimactic or a little late. I don't know how long these proceedings take or don't take. Maybe they're a couple hours, maybe they're a couple of days. Should we put a not to exceed? Or is that something that's, I don't know, or I defer to council, but, you know, I hate to leave stuff open-ended.
Solicitor Talarico, we've already voted on the resolution as amended, right? We would have to reopen it or do another resolution?
Well, I mean, if you want to put a cap on his charges, is that what you're saying?
That was the suggestion, yes.
Well, what would that be? I mean, this is no different, these proceedings are not going to be any different than a mini trial in front of the judge in a court of common pleas. So, knowing Paul Susko, he's been around the corner quite a few times, and knowing the potential witnesses involved that I will have to call, in the retirement administration, I could think off the top of my head of at least 4 or 5 witnesses who I will have to call to testify. I don't know how many witnesses Paul Susko will have to, but many of these, to save time and money, might be taken by depositions and then submitted to the judge. One good thing is it's not going to involve any experts, and experts are the expensive ones, usually $750 to $1,000 an hour. So there's just lay testimony and then reading the briefs. I mean, let's put it this way.
Is it
It's
even
gonna
worth
be, it'll be 1/100th of what our Harrisburg lawyers charge us for the community college. Won't be very much. I really can't tell. 25,000, do you want to do that? Something like that?
It may not, Mr. Chair. Still got stuff.
Yeah, you still have the
Yeah,
floor.
you know, it may or may not, if it's going to be a brief mini trial, it may not even be applicable or worthy of it. But if we don't know if this is going to be something open-ended and dragging on, then $25,000 would be appropriate.
Because fees and all that are usually a sensitive issue, again, looking back at our Harrisburg council, they are very sensitive about giving a bill without showing all of its time, and then one with showing all of the time that it puts in. I think it would be better if council signed a contract with the judge, and then we could spell out what his hourly rate is and put a cap on things after we think about it for a while. Because I don't think that Chad Conley wants the public to know that he's working for $200 an hour or with a cap of 20,000, whatever it happens to be. That is probably should be handled with an agreement.
Okay, thank you. Is that
Agreed.
satisfactory for council and consensus? Okay. Thank you. So you'll work on that
Sure.
on behalf of council. Thank you. And thank you for that clarification, Councilman Horton.
There's a signing line for all of you on this one.
Then next on our agenda is resolution number 37. Mr. Smith, if we could have a reading of resolution number 37 in title only, please.
Resolution number 37, 2021, exonerating outstanding taxes, fees, and interest on parcel number 15-020-020.0-108, located at 339 East 17th Street, Erie, Pennsylvania.
So moved?
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilwoman Rennie. Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote, please?
On resolution 37, Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. Mr. Smith, we now have a motion that we amended the agenda for the possible sale of repositories for items J, K, M, and N. And we're doing that in one vote. If you could just give us the address and municipality as the reading, and then we will take those to ask for a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Item J is at 9800 West Lake Road, Lot 55, in Lake City, Pennsylvania. Item K is located at 728 East 7th Street, the City of Erie. Item M is located on West 17th Street, City of Erie. It's a vacant lot. Item N is located at 601 East 11th Street, City of Erie.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Councilwoman Showerman, seconded by Vice Chairwoman Clear on those four parcels in the repository. Are there any comments or questions from members of council? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote, please?
On items J, K, L, M, and N, Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Yes. Next on our agenda is item number L.
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairwoman Clear.
I would like to make a motion to table items L and O.
Second.
Should we do them separate?
Can I do them?
Mr. Smith?
I'm sorry?
Should we table them separately, or is it okay to table them together?
Oh, I think they can be together as long as there's a second.
Thank you. We have a motion to table item L and O.
Andre seconded it.
Got it, seconded.
Okay, so we have the motion by Vice Chairwoman Clear, seconded by Councilman Rastetter to table. And Mr. Smith, may we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Schenk,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Well,
Oh, my
if I
God.
vote yes, then it's unanimous all across the board. If I vote no, then I'm the dissenter.
Rebel.
I urge
So-
a no vote.
So I'll vote yes. Thank you, and thank you to all members of council, and thank you to everybody for being here tonight. On behalf of Erie County Council, it has been an honor to be in Waterford. Once again, Councilman Rastetter, thank you for hosting us tonight, and we look forward to our next council meeting, which is September 28th, and the finance meeting, which is September 23rd. Thank you, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion. So moved, I mean.